Okay, so really easy. It never wants to share where I want to share. All right. So we are gonna do the routing one first. I normally do the wireless one. That one is a little longer. So what I did was I combined the missed activities that I normally use for this class into one. So that way we are gonna do packet tracer this week. I want you to do the training on Cisco Academy because we are gonna use the regular switch and router next week. So we want to make sure that we know how to, at least Packet Tracer will give you the training. Okay, so when you open up Packet Tracer and when you finish logging in, it's going to look like this. You are going to have the blank canvas. Okay, your devices are going to be on the bottom here. And so you have different options. So if you want network device, we always want to use network device. If we want to put together a topology that would simulate our network, so usually this is selected, but there are other options here. So if you want to add computers, right, similar to what you've seen with the software that we use to draw our network, you're going to see that there on the bottom. You see my cursor. So like your PC, your mobile devices, and then there are other components. Sometimes we need to add other components, and you can also use your shortcut keys. And then anytime that you want to connect devices, you use the lightning bolt, which is the connection that allows you to draw how you want to link your devices. Like think of it like a way that we want to use cable. And it doesn't have to be cable, it could be wireless. And then there are other options like miscellaneous, and anytime that you want the internet indication, that will be the cloud. So now, depending on the version of Packet Tracer that you use, it's going to tell you what kind of devices would be available for that version. So if you download the latest version, I used a little older version that I used last year. So I know they update the versions, so the newer versions would contain newer devices. So I encourage you to use the latest version that now that you have Cisco Academy access, okay? All right. So on the first part, what it tells you to open your devices, and then when you click on your network devices, you would then click the router on the bottom left pane. And so what you want to do to start with your packet tracer, right? Make sure that we select the network devices. And then as the symbol indicates, when you look at these symbols, right, it will tell you the model of your device. They're kind of tiny. So right here is the 1841. And it's drag and drop. So you hold down your mouse button and you just drag it onto your Canvas workspace like this. So what you want to do is, and you can click it to be able to access, you know, the toggle for us to turn it on. And then in here, what you can do is you can actually access the terminal, which is the command line for the device. So we want to first select the device that we're using, right? And then if you want to configure that device, you simply click it, okay? So it's a pretty easy process. Once you get a hang of it, it's really simple. I know that all of you are really techie, so this is easy to do. Okay, so on the lab, it tells you to drag in the model 1841. You want to put it onto your workspace. Like I try to screenshot it so that way you can see. So we just simply select the network device that we're using, the right model router, and we just drag it to your workspace. Okay. Then we are going to select the end device, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to put together a topology of your network, right? So on your packet tracer app, I'm going to close this and this for now. What I want is I want to come back here, and then I'm going to click on the end device to select PC, right? And then I see the PC on the left here. I'm just going to go ahead and drag it to my workspace like this. Okay, you can make it closer. So I want to drag at least one PC, and then it tells you to repeat the same step, and you're going to add another PC. So we are going to come back here, make sure that our end device is selected, our PC is selected, and then we're going to drag another one. Right? Just like how we draw topology at the beginning of our course, like second week or third week. Okay, so the point is that we're able to add the device that we need, okay? And so now what we're gonna do is we are going to click on the connection, which is your lightning bolt, okay? So that's really represent how we're gonna link the devices together. And we are going to use the copper crossover cable, right? The dotted line to connect the PC to the router. And that's gonna be your fast Ethernet. You always gonna have some form of terminal, some form of system that would be connecting either directly to it to be able to configure. And as you put your cursor on it, you can see that it gives you like a summary of its configuration, and we can always go into it to configure later on. Right now, my router doesn't have any kind of configuration because it's brand new. So I'm gonna next click my lightning bolt, and then I'm gonna select the dotted line, right? So, sorry, you gotta, you gotta make sure that it's connected. So you select the dotted line, and then you're gonna connect the router to it. Okay, so the dotted line. And then we are gonna go from the PC, and we want to use the fast Ethernet. So when you select the cable, it's gonna ask you, where do you wanna plug it in? We wanna plug it in from the fast Ethernet, and then you just pull your cursor. You don't have to hold it down on anything. Just click on your router, and then we're gonna use the fast Ethernet. I think I put down 00, right? So we're gonna choose the first adapter. Now, when you connect, you're gonna see that it's not fully linked when it shows you the little red flag like this. So when you want it linked, so when it's fully green is when it's fully configured and linked. So simply, these devices are off. We simply plug the cable in from our computer into our router, like the physical network, right? Okay, any question? Okay, so again, after I drag my devices in, I click the lightning bolt on the left to select my link, and then I select the cable type that I want to use. Click on the device. It's going to ask you which adapter you want to plug it in. Select the adapter, which is fast Ethernet, and then click the other end device or the other network device, and then select your adapter, which is fast Ethernet 00. So the 00 just indicate that it is the first adapter in that appliance. Some appliance will have multiple adapter, like what we talked about before. So you want to make sure that you plug it into the right one. Are we okay? Any question? Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to activate it. So
Okay. Let me stop sharing real quick. Okay. Is your name on here? Let me see.
yeah.
Oh, was it the first page? It's not sorted, so I'm Giovanni, right?
On the
Right there. I'm sorry?
on the route. Oh,
Right here, right?
Mhm.
That's what I thought.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Anybody else need invite? Okay, let me get my Zoom back on. Okay, so once we connect, right? We're gonna click the first PC. We selected the fast Ethernet. We link that together. It is not fully functional. The router has to be configured. So you see the little red dot or the red flag. So once the router is configured, we're gonna see that turning green and it tells you that there, right? We're gonna do the same thing with the PC1. So again, we're gonna come back here. We are going to make sure that we select the lightning bolt. We're gonna click our cable, and then we're gonna select the PC1. We're gonna say fast Ethernet 0, and we're gonna connect it to the router. We're gonna say fast Ethernet 01. So the whole point in this is to show you how you can just create a topology and connect it through the simulator. And so now we have 2 PC, and again, it's not fully connected until we set up our configuration for the system. Okay, and on the PC, you should be able to see command prompt and all of that too. Okay, so when you click it, it's gonna let you interface it that way. Any question? Okay, so we connected those computers together and it's gonna look like this. Okay, and then now you're gonna click on the device and you wanna turn it on. Okay, so all I have to do is, it tells me that we want to verify if the power button is on, and I did show the screenshot. So when you click the device, you just simply click the toggle for the power, and that's gonna turn that on. Okay. Yeah, so you gotta click the button, click it, and then when it's green right here. And okay, so it tells me that, so now once I turn that on, I gotta make sure I turn my PC on. Okay, any questions? Pretty straightforward. Now on your router, this is part of the router. We are going to click on the CLI tab and we're gonna type yes to enter the initial configuration. Listen, this is not gonna be exactly the same as the physical appliance. Remember, we talked about how once we turn on the power for the appliance, right? You gotta connect it through a software. So we will practice that. We're gonna use PuTTY. And then once you get into the CLI, you are going to have to go into a certain mode. We talked about different modes, right? We're gonna do enable, and then we're gonna access using config term. So it is slightly different than the actual router, as in that on the simulator, because it's a software, right? They simply make yes as a command to be able to activate it. Okay, so when I come back here and I click on my router, right? I already have it turned on. So now I'm gonna click the CLI tab. And it's gonna ask you, do you want to do the initial configuration? You type in yes and press enter. Okay, and then it asks you, would you like to enter the basic management setup right here, right? It tells you that you need to type in yes again. So yes. And then it will take you here. So the steps are slightly different between the software and the actual device. Some of the newer devices actually have graphical user interface where you can go through the wizard and be able to configure it, but most devices should be able to use CLI. Okay, so now we want to rename our router, right? On the command line, we normally would say host name and then its name, but here it already prompts you this. So we want to type in the host name as R1 for router 1. Let me close my PC, come back to my router. So enter the host name, you just type in R1, press enter. And then now it's gonna ask you for your secret. So basically that is like a password or a passphrase to log into the device itself. So I had asked you to use, right? Your secret is gonna be my Cisco network, like this. And then so you simply type that in. And then after that, we're gonna enable passwords. So Cisco uses a little bit different. Instead of just a password, it uses secret and a password. Okay. And then for our virtual password, we would use the remote Cisco R1. So here I would type my Cisco network, press enter. And then now I would do my password, which is gonna be CIS40A. So let me move this over here so we don't have to flip back and forth. Press enter. And then for my virtual password, we're gonna do remote Cisco R1. Press enter. And then it asks you if you want to configure the SNMP management, right? So we are going to enter no for now. Okay, later on we are going to practice this. So what it's telling you here after you have set up the account access information and your device host name, it gives you the summary of what happens, right? What the interface, very important. Okay, so we want to see the adapter that we're connecting the cable to. And then there's no IP address yet. So we can manually put in the IP address. Okay. So after we do this, you are, in order to configure each of the connection point, which is your adapter, we have to enter the interface that we are going to configure, because most devices going to have multiple interface, right? I have a virtual one and then 2 fast Ethernet connections. So I'm going to go ahead and so I would do fast Ethernet, and you got to spell it like how it is used. Okay, so 0/0. And it tells you, do you want to configure the IP address for this? You type in yes. Okay. And then now it's going to ask you what IP address do you want to use? We can type in the IP address I gave you there. So 192.168.10.1. And by now we should know what kind of IP class this is, right? And then press enter. And then now it said, is this your subnet mask, right? So we are going to type in the same thing, 255.255.255.0, and then press enter. Okay, so when you use a brand new device in the software or in the real world, we want to make sure that you give it a name and then you set up the adapter IP address so that way it recognizes the IP address, right? And use the IP address as either a gateway or be able to route. Okay, so we want to give it an IP address. And then here it gives me an option, a list of options. It says 0, go to iOS command prompt without saving this. 1, to return back to the setup without saving. So if you mess up, you can select 1, right? If you want to not save, then you can go to 0. And then we want to save because we just added the information. So type 2. Okay. And then now it tells you configure for the console by console. So it tells me that my state is up, right? Because I turned things on and I connected, okay? And then when you come back over here, right, it's still showing the red. So we want to make sure that we finish the rest. Okay. So now we are going to actually use the command line for that. Okay. So we are going to now, you're going to press enter, and on the regular device, you might have to do it twice. So we are going to go here. Okay. So once you have it here, right, we're going to press enter and it says, oh, there's your host name, right? So once you save your host name, it's going to tell you, oh, that's the device that you're using. So make sure that we know the host name. So R1 is what we give it, right? So now we are going to access this device now. We're going to type in enable, and then it asks you for the password. It's the same password that we put in earlier. So CIS40A, and it doesn't change your cursor. So just type. Oh, why is it not? Oh, Patsy. Hold on. Did I save the wrong password? Maybe it's lowercase. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the My Cisco Network one. There it goes. It's this one, okay? Sorry. I forgot that it's Cisco and it uses the secret. I said that earlier. Okay. So once we have that, once you enter the password, you get the R1 like this. That means that we now can configure it. So you're going to say config term. Okay. So once you hit the config term, you are going to see config. That means that now you can go into the configuration mode, right? So I'm here at this step 24. And then I want to tell it that I want to use this adapter. So you want to say interface, right? Got to type it the same, fast Ethernet 0/1. Okay. So once you tell it that you're using this adapter to interface this adapter, it's going to tell you config IF. So you have to move from enable into configuration into the interface, which is your adapter. And then so once you have that, you can then set up the IP address. So we can go through the prompt like what we did earlier, or we can do it this way. And that's just an alternate way to set up your IP address for a certain adapter or a certain interface on your appliance. So we can say IP address and space and then 192.168.20.1 and 255.255.255.0. Okay. So my intention is to use one interface, right, with the .10, and then the other interface with the .20, right, even though it is a class C, okay? So that way I have a higher range there. Any question? Okay, so now once we put in the IP address for the second adapter, which is the 0/1, we're going to do a no shutdown. Okay. And then next, we are going to configure the SNMP. So this allows us to manage the appliances. Okay, so we can use a router to overlook other routers, and that's the whole point in SNMP. Okay, so what we can do is we can set up a way that the appliance would recognize other appliance and see their status and be able to look at how they communicate. So in order to do that, you need to enable what's called SNMP server. And this is when the Python stuff comes in really handy, because you can use Python package and use the API to interface with all your appliances and be able to manage it at a software level. So from here, you are going to say SNMP -server community public R0. Sorry, that should be a 0, not an O. Oh, I'm sorry, RO. Okay, RO. So RO for read only. Then we are going to allow the private read and the write command. So the first step is to say that, and it tells you right here that we are going to configure, right, the public read only. That means that from when you access it publicly, it's only going to show, it's only going to view, it's going to let you see. But in order to configure it, we can make sure that it's only going to be privately allowing read and write. So I put down the information here. So your symbol network management protocol is an application layer protocol. It allows the message format for communication between the manager and the agent, the server, and the other appliance to standardize the framework in the common language for monitoring. So we're able to use an appliance to manage other appliance. And so what we're going to do, and it's going to use very similar to what you've seen in the other protocol, but it's going to use the get and set. And this is for the development purposes. If you're familiar with programming, right? Normally we write function to get, just like how you saw that in PowerShell, is to obtain information, and to set is to store information. So you are going to have the 3 options in how you can access your data: to obtain the data, to store new data, and then to get notification for your data. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that we set up the read write. So we're going to say SNMP server. That's going to be your manager community private RW for read write. Now, if you type it wrong, it's just going to tell you that it doesn't recognize the command. Retype the command. Okay. So what we're doing here is now we want to control read-write permissions for the private level for this appliance, as it is going to be the manager for other appliances. Okay, so after today, you can put down that you know how to use packet tracer, and you're able to set up a simple network with router and devices, and set up the router with SNMP. Okay, so the IT manager, when they see that, they know that you know how to at least configure, and you need to say that it's through CLI, okay? Because, you know, now like they have the wizard to do it, CLI is a little harder. Okay, all right. Okay, so we did this part for 29, and then now we are going to do a static route, and I want to show you how you can do this. Okay, because in the future, when you work on the router, right, and if you're getting an error and you ask me, oh, Dr. Nguyen, how do I set up the static route on the router? I'm going to tell you, go back and practice packet tracer. Okay, so this is important steps because we want to learn how to do it. So anytime that you use IP addresses, it's always going to start with the IP command, and anytime that you're setting up routing, it's always going to also include route command. So we are going to do IP route Okay, and then the address. Now notice that I'm using a network address, right? I am not using a host address. Why is that, right? Because the router itself just needs to be identified in the network, okay? Whereas we already gave it an address, so it's we're telling it that, hey, this is gonna be the route for this network, okay? And then the subnet mask, and then the specific host. So we're gonna say that this specific host is gonna get routed, right, into this network. So we're gonna say, oops, let me come back over here. And then we are gonna put in our subnet mask. And I'm using a classful address, right? So 10.10.10.2. So I put the note right beneath number 30. It says we set route from 192.168.10.0 network to the 10.10.10.2 device. And that's how you set your static route. So what that will do is going to add it to your routing table, okay, on the router, right? It's going to store that. And then we want to enable it now. So when you set route, that's not enough. We have to enable the route by using the IP routing command. I have a typo. Okay, so that's the next step. So I put in the documentation for you. Like I mentioned before, it's really important that you go to Cisco documentation and look at the model of your router, right? On the software training software, or when we practice using a different model, there's some slight changes in some of the command that some of the models use. So make sure that we look through it and make sure that, you know, we understand how to do it. And they're pretty good at showing you the steps, okay? Now we talked about RIP in our lecture, and we are going to use RIP in this one, even though it's dated, but I want to make sure that you know how to do this working with legacy or existing device that use RIP. So RIP is a routing information protocol that is commonly used in a small medium network. So when you work with the smaller size network, you often see RIP2. Okay, I think they have yeah, RIP2, RIP3. So it is stable protocol, and it is a distance vector algorithm. We talked about distance vector. It uses this to calculate routes that will be convenient for the network. So we are going to say router RIP. Press enter, and we have to tell it the version, otherwise it's going to default to 1. So we're going to say version 2. Now, if you have a very old router, it might not support version 2 if they haven't updated it. Okay, so it has operating system just like any system, and most of these are all embedded system anyways, right? It runs embedded Linux in the back. So what they have to do is, you know, if you don't update the iOS, right, or the iOS is no longer, the new version is no longer available, you might just have to use the older RIP. So just make sure that we know which model and which iOS version we're using. It's kind of like you're trying to use, I don't know, Windows Vista, and Microsoft stopped supporting updates for Windows Vista. So it's just gonna not have any additional, it won't be able to work with newer technology, right? So now, after we put in the RIP2 version, we are gonna look at the list. We're gonna specify the list of the network that uses RIP, okay? So we're gonna say this router itself is gonna use RIP by saying network, that's your command, 192.168.10.1, press enter. So after we tell the system that itself, the router is going to be using the RIP that we set up, we are going to disable the automatic summarization for the subnet route. This allows your sub-prefix routing information to pass across classful network boundaries using the no auto summary command. Okay, so when we use the no auto summary command, that would stop the automatic summarization because we're using the classful route. So it doesn't, because this is really to drive performance. Because if you auto summarize every time, it's going to take time for the system to keep checking, right? So you are going to do no auto dash summary. And then when you're done, right, you can do exit. And as you exit, it takes you one step back. You see, like I was in config router. Now I move into config. Okay. And you have to do it twice to get it back to just R1. It's just like Linux, right? You got to do CD ... or command prompt CD ... to go up one step, one more. And then so what we're going to do is we're going to do exit again, and it's going to take you here. Okay. Now we're not done until we save it into your RAM, right? Into VRM. So we are going to do a write memory. And so what that does is it's going to take whatever that you just added as it went into temp memory, and it's going to put it into the permanent memory. Got it? Pretty easy, right? This can be fun. So I encourage you to use Packet Tracer, add a bunch of routers on there, and learn how to configure them on your own, right? And that's how you can get better at this, because I know you're not going to have switches and router at home. You might be able to get a used one, but those are really expensive. So we can use Packet Tracer to practice. Okay, so now after I did the write memory, I'm going to exit the exec mode. So the preview exec mode. So I'm going to do an exit. So basically this is like blank, right? It's just says in order to access, you just press enter. So if we need to get back into it, let's say we walk away, we go have lunch, we come back, we're like, okay, let's do more configuration. You're going to press enter and it's going to take you back to the beginning. Okay. So now the first thing that you should always do before you configure anything, if it's not a brand new appliance, you need to make sure that you look at its configuration. Look at what the last administrator did, or the last technician did or what happened with the configuration on your existing network. So we want to say show running dash config. Oh, let me try that again. Sorry. I think I missed a step. Yep, I did. Sorry. Right here, okay, you need to enter enable. Always remember that you can't go in and see stuff until you enable it. Right? We remember that from the beginning. Yep. Where did you put it? So one of the things I want to tell you is when you do these things, you cannot rush it, okay? Because when you rush it, you find Pause it and then pause it and reopen. So enable now, try to enable. And then. Strong password. My Cisco network is the one that you use, so. So you don't need to download and start. Okay. Oh, you need. Yeah, but when the next time you see other questions?
Does this have to look like this, or because it says only at one PC?
For what?
For when you're extending the network, it says add one switch, one server, one PC. But the pictures of three extra PCs. Without the little blue.
No, you have to have two from the beginning and one more should be three.
It says delete.
Oh, yeah, so then two. I must have taken it before I added it. Okay. All right, so after we have this, right, make sure that we do the, so this is the missing step. Okay, on 38. And then after that, you would have your configuration like this. Okay, so it tells me this is my password information, my encryption, and all of that. And then you can press enter to go down more and more and more and more, and so on until you get all the way to the end, right? My IP address I put in with the route. So this is how you can check after you put in your configuration, right? My RIP, I have that in there. And then my route. And there's a lot more that I can add, and then my RO and RW. Okay, and then my remote password for virtual. So once you get back to the R1 with the hashtag, right, we can now add in the command. So we can say show IP interface brief. So you saw that the summary is really long, right? Sometimes we only want certain things like just some IP information. So you can do a show in the IP interface brief, and that would display your IP information. instead of going through the entire summary and keep pressing enter, right? So this gives me a very small table that contains the IP address that I had added, okay, for my adapters. And so you want to screenshot this at this point. It should toggle red. It's toggling red. It's showing red. Let me check my link and see why it's doing that. It's not responding. Oh, I need to set the IP on the PC. Okay, as it doesn't have the DHCP capability.
So, with
Yeah.
the switch, it was showing me the red triangles,
Mhm.
but then I switched to the what's it called? The 2950T and connected it to the gigabit port, and now it works.
So are you talking about the router or the switch?
Yeah, I'm connecting the router to the switch.
So you're using a different interface?
Yeah, it's I don't think I see the 2960 and 42T.
Oh, for your switch model. Which one did you use?
I used the 2950T.
Okay, that's fine. You can also add, like you can go and download additional ones too. You know, like they only give you limited here, but on Cisco, if you have access to their packet tracer, you can also add the updates, right? Okay, yours should be green. Is yours green? All right. Mine is just not green. How lovely is that? But that's okay. You get the point. It's supposed to be green to show that it's connected. All right. So now we are going to configure the PC. So once you configure the PC address, we should be able to have like a little small network, right? So you're going to click on each of the PC, go into the configuration tab, and then you are going to enter the IP address of the router as your default gateway. And that's the whole point is if you are using a certain appliance to route, we want to use that for the default gateway. Okay. So here you simply just click on the PC and then configuration tab. Oh, I didn't have my thing on. That's probably why. And then I would go. That's why I wasn't green. Yeah. So check this, make sure that you toggle it on. Okay, and you can also use the desktop like this too. So I would go, you can go into your desktop of the PC, click on IP configuration, and then put in your router IP. I forgot now. So let me come back over here. Was it .1? Yeah. So 10.1. And then if you have the DNS server, you can put that there, right? Now, be careful when you do this is if the PC has more than one adapter, right? Make sure that we use the right adapter. And then if you want to put in its IP address, you can put in its IP address there. But from here, what we're asking you to do here is to put in your default gateway field. Okay. And then I wanted to show you how you can remove it by using the delete button. So you can delete one of the PCs. So you should end up with 2. Okay. And you need to extend the router by adding a switch. So drop in a switch. And when you add in a switch, it would look like this. So drag it in, right? Remember, connect it, turn it on. Yes.
Do you have to start all over?
It should be able to, did you save it?
How do you know if you said?
So reopen that.
Quick save?
Yes, you have to.
If you do a quick save, you know you can work the save?
It-
There's no auto save?
Yeah, so you have to go file, save. And then what you want is you want to give it a name, but this is what I'm going to tell you. It's see if you can access it. It's going to be under your user account. So go to like see users and then your username and then under packet tracer and see under if it saves it under there. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's still caching it. So it might save it there. Yeah, so check, well, maybe it's under downloads. But this is, when you run it on your PC, it would be there. Okay, so that's a good question for this part is when you save, remember that it saves it as a PKT and PKT file is open in packet tracer. So you have to use the app to open it up, right? Let's do it again. Practice makes perfect. Okay, so we can give it a name. So we can just say lab 8 CIS40A fall 22. Okay. So, yes.
So I'm having a, so you're, what's basically a problem?
What's your question?
Having a little trouble figuring out how to use the IP address, 192.168.10.5 for the switch CLI.
So just like how you did it for the router, okay, remember, go back to the steps. So I would recommend, right, looking at from step the interface one, step 25 and 26, and then 27. Make sure we save too, okay? So for those of you who are trying to put in your IP address for your switch, look at step 25 through 27, and then make sure that we go to the step when we save to the switch. So basically, you can't just follow the steps anymore. You have to apply it now. So look at 25 through 27 for step 46. Make sure we save. So look at the step on how we wrote it to RAM. And then before you save it, make sure you look at the step on how to do the show summary configuration. or show brief. Okay? Show IP brief. Any other questions? Okay, so the next part for those of you who are still working on this, right? After we did this, we added the default gateway, then you can remove your PC, then you can add a switch. And if you don't have the TT, Giovanni, which one did you use? 2.5, which switch did you use?
I used the switch, 2950 T24.
2950 T24. Yeah, so your version is a little bit different than mine, right? We have different appliance. So yeah, find the switch 2950 and then drag it to your desktop.
The 2,950. The 24th?
Yeah.
I copied the one in the picture that shows 29.
Yeah.
That's fine. If you have that, then yeah.
It shows multiple PCs, but instructions just shows one. So do I have to add all the PCs?
No, you just need, it's gonna be 2. Yeah. Yeah, I screenshot that before I deleted my other.
Oh, yeah, the 2960 24 TT is actually, yeah.
Mhm.
It's disguised as the 2960. Yep. Yeah, so what would you need it on?
So after you save, and if you ever want to come back to it and you know, do more configuration, you can open up the file, right? So you can add more PC, you can add more switch. So from here, I have a router, a switch, right? My PCs. So I had you delete 1, so you should only have 2, but this is mine that I tested, okay? And then you gotta give it a few seconds for it to all turn green like this. Okay, so for the switch, go to the CLI, right? And then it would say switch like this, right? If we want to access it, we just say enable and then config term, right? Remember that? Okay, so do those steps. So enable config term. And then if I wanted to give it a name like switch 1, I would say host name S1. So now it shows S1, see? And then we can say IP address. So it should come easy like that to you, okay? Because we can't be fumbling around Googling commands for that model all the time. And then you can put in the subnet mask. I normally do it together. So the first 2 steps to configure any device, we enable config term. Then we can, when we see the hashtag is when we can set it up, right? Now remember that you have to really also configure the interface, because if the switch have multiple adapters, you got to select the right one and give it the right IP address. Okay. So remember, you can do show interface. So this is why we need to do the training on Cisco Academy. Because I'm gonna give you like this 1 week, and so that way you can practice. And you should practice additionally outside of class. Because we are gonna use Cisco devices for a few weeks, and then we're gonna move to like other devices like Fortinet, which is similar. So if you are not sure what to do, right, come back to the prior steps on how you set up your router. Remember, you got to do the interface. Make sure you check your adapter that you're setting your IP to, and anytime you set an IP address, it will be this. So if the switch only have one adapter, which likely it might not, right? We want to make sure that we select the interface where it connects. So if I'm not sure, I can also go to my topology and I can put my cursor on it, and it tells you those are all the ports on the switch. Okay. So when you connect it up to your other appliance, like your router, normally we would use, because this router that we're using only uses fast Ethernet. So to connect the switch to it, we have to use fast Ethernet. But if you have other ports like gigabit, so appliance to appliance, normally we want a higher speed. So you would use that interface. Okay. So in let's say my router has gigabit, then I can do gigabit to the switch, and then Ethernet to Ethernet on the PC to the switch. Now, some Cisco appliance will actually have like, it would just say FA 0/1, and that just stands for fast Ethernet 0/1. Some would say it like this. So however that it's identified as adapter, you would use it like this, right? See how the adapters are. Okay, so once we have the switch IP address, I want you to screenshot it. Save your packet tracer file, like you can say CIS40A lab 8, save it to your USB, right? Because the computer might not retain your data. And then you can close, you can keep your packet tracer open for the next one. Originally, this is a separate lab than this one. So, but I wanted to do this one first, as this week we talk about routing. And then on this one, you are going to make this network. So there is a PKT that I shared in the lab on the lab assignment page. Okay. You can use it for one of the exercise, so you don't have to start from scratch. So normally when you design your network, you would start out with a table like this, right? You might have a bunch of PCs on there and other system. You should list the interface. What kind of connection are you using for your system to the rest of the network? And then we would put down the type of IP addresses that we use. So if you have 1,000 system, you have to do inventory of your network setting on those systems. Okay. I know that this is tedious, but it is a way for us to track in case things go down. Like if our SNMP server is not working, we have a manual way to check. Okay. And then the subnet mask, the default gateway. So I put down the very thorough specific step on how you can create your wireless diagram for packet tracer and be able to put in your configuration and be able to set up your wireless network. So you can also add to your resume that you know how to use packet tracer to simulate and test your wireless network. Simulate, test, configure, and test your wireless network. You want to impress the IT managers out there, right? Yeah.
you have to do interface. So what if, you have to do the switch. So cover your mouth, open the switch first. Over to the
It doesn't like to be, give me an idea.
Yeah. Oh, we also want to give you the idea.
Yeah. They don't want to rush about that. Oh, a meeting like that?
Yeah, no, no.
I see that you have noticing content.
Yeah, you, so you can do the repayment, but all of these parts are connected, so these, when you have people in, it's to the wrong, right? So on the system itself, you have these systems connected. So now, do, so which port are you connecting this on? No? Okay, so here, I'm saying, so it's showing that it's up on these. So when you, so click on this cable right here. Yeah, and then reconnect the cable. And then select the point. You gotta remember which one. to do. Yeah, so that's gonna be the one. You understand?
Yeah.
So what that does is that port is gonna use the IP address in the router. Okay, and so the other device is gonna connect to it, and what it's gonna do is gonna funnel to that port to send all the traffic to that, including the dot com. Interface, whatever the name of that port is, that Ethernet, blah, 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 0/1, and then, and then you're gonna do so you always have to select the interface before you can. So when you guys click to connect, remember which interface that you connected to, which adapter. Question? I'll come over. Yeah, you have to select interface.
I did. Yeah, and then I also did. It's still not. It's not right. It's not on the.
So how do you connect that to your router? Yeah, just click on the page on a little time. Reconnection, and then just when you select, oh, one, right? So that's the one. Okay? So now you can. Your IP is updated. So you're out of the configure, wait, so now. See, this is not incorrect. So every time that you gotta look at where your path is. And then up arrow or times to go back to this command. Again, so do this interface and that's Ethernet to the one. CIS. So now you're in it, then you go to the IP address, load things. IP space slash help. Give me 1 second.
Let me pause this real quick. So I have ports.
Think, the first one might be fair enough to make sure the height that is.
Oh, okay. I see what you guys are doing. So when you use that switch, and if you select this port, okay, I like for you to click on the switch and click config right here. I'm going to explain to you guys something. Okay, so when you and you know, you guys are trying to put in the IP, but if you're using this and if you select this right here, see how it shows this. When you do that, when you click on the interface here, it actually shows you the equivalent command for when you select that interface, like when I click it, right? But what you need to see is right here, it tells you that this is a VLAN 1 by default, and then all the other stuff is different. Okay, so for that switch, and Tin was doing this correctly, he uses the VLAN interface. Okay, and it is default to VLAN 1, because why would it be a virtual local area network? Because you have to think about it. You have all of the other ports that's funneling back to one specific physical port. So it has to treat all of the other port as a virtual local area network. So that way it's going to funnel in. So the best way to do this to resolve when you get stuck, you're like, oh, I type in the interface and it's not recognizing my IP address, because it won't take, right? So it has to virtually make that an interface in order to group all of the other ports onto one port. So what you have to do is, you know, you look at this, and if I click this, it tells me, oh, it's a VLAN, and the limit is going to be a 10 for the TX, right? Whenever you see a TX, what does that mean? Twisted pair, right? For the ring limit. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at what kind of port that it's actually set up or pre-configured. This is from manufacturer, right? To do. So you are going to use the interface VLAN, and it's default to VLAN 1. Okay, on this particular switch. Understand? Okay, so.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
Oh, if you didn't put you on one. Oh, I heard it on the call. No, so we.
So on your notes of this week, I did go over and it talked a little bit about using VLANs, and we will expand on it a little more when we do future lab and actual router. Okay, so let me pull this up so to help you guys. Oh, that was 7. And you can find this on unit 7 notes when it talks about how you can use your trunking for your default VLAN. So if it is a default VLAN 1, right, we can do our interface, and then you need to do a switch port command for the trunk, and you can do that, okay, if you want a trunk. So there's a step.
You just see you're open for the order. And then go and go side, go there.
Yep.
And then so the exit out of there, so exit way. And then show anything. Oh, wait, no, still the bridge down. It'll be fast. So.
Yep.
Yeah, so bridge down.
Yeah, so remember how we did your right, so now you can. Now you can put So the process is to make sure you have one. And we are going to show that. Saying that this is a server with public access. And then if the price impact less, then you are going to, make sure that it's. So go back.
Oh.
You can't be in situations either. So that's, you probably have to save the show. Yeah. If you, I think go down to the end. Yeah. So when you guys do the show IP3, go down to VLAN to screenshot, it's gonna be on the bottom. What happened?
Was it? I think I really want to do.
Yeah, you're setting those routes. Part D.
Then we can proceed to the wireless.